This terrifying dating experience happened to me 5 years ago, but will always be fresh in my mind. Even thinking about it still sends my anxiety through the roof. So at the time of this experience, I was 23 years old, living in Tampa, Florida in my own apartment with my dog Charlie. Charlie was a protective 10-year-old yellow lab who can sense a bad seed real quick. I got him from the local shelter so he could help protect me from those bad seeds since I was a single young female in a busy city. Well, and protect me he did. I had some scary situations happen, and thanks to him, I stayed safe. So anyway, I was working at the Marriott Hotel downtown in the back offices as an accountant. Working at a hotel, you meet all types of people. You know, some are fun, some real laid back, and well, some you wish you had never met. I made several friends at work, and we went out a few nights a week to the local bars just to unwind. So life was good. I enjoyed my job. I had no complaints. Until I started dating John. This experience really changed my life, but not in a good way, unfortunately. So for some backstory, John worked at the hotel as a room attendant. I met him during one of our nights out as a group. We just started talking and we seemed to have a lot in common. We both enjoyed going out and having fun. We went to the same college and we were both an only child of divorced parents. So we decided to go on a date to get to know each other better. It was a Friday night and John picked me up at my apartment. He even got to meet Charlie, who seemed to like him. He went right up to John and looked for pets. John obliged and gave Charlie lots of pets and laughed, saying, "Wow, he likes me. Guess I need to come around more." Charlie liking John was a good sign to me, so I felt good about this night. We went to a place called Channelside. It had several restaurants, a nice bowling alley, a movie theater, and it was right on the water. For me, it was a dream date. Everything in one place. On the drive there, we talked non-stop about our past, from growing up to our college days. It felt like a strong connection to John, just in the 10-minute drive to our date night. The first thing we did was eat dinner at this super nice seafood restaurant. I was really impressed and was hoping John was actually paying for this meal. He did not go cheap either. We did appetizers, entrees, dessert. We ate, we laughed, and I did not want the night to end. I was captivated by John, drawn to him and the way he handled himself. He was confident and very open. After dinner, we went to the piano bar. They had a man playing a piano, of course, while singing, and people just sat around and drank and relaxed. After this, I invited him back to my apartment. I never do this on a first date, and I wasn't looking for anything to happen this night. I just felt like we got along so well. I wanted to continue our conversation at my place. So as soon as I opened my apartment door, there was loyal, protective Charlie waiting for me. His tail was wagging, panting, and jumping up and down in happiness. John went right to him and started petting him, and it was evident these two had a new friendship building. We spent about 2 hours watching a rom-com movie, talking about life, drinking, and hanging out with Charlie. The three of us just bonded. It was comfortable, and I looked forward to seeing more of John. Around 12 a.m., I said goodnight to John and I went to bed. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, just thinking about John and our date. How perfect the night went, how close I felt to John. I had butterflies in my stomach just thinking about him. I thought to myself, am I falling in love with this guy? I have felt this once before and was hurt so badly by that relationship, so I don't want to go through that again. I thought that I better be smart about this and take this slow, so I think it goes without saying that I had a great night's sleep. Fast forward 2 months and things with John were going great. We had maybe one fight during our time together and it was over something just silly. We always had fun and he and Charlie had a great friendship. John even met my parents and they loved him. I would think at the time, how did I get this lucky? Is this my forever partner? But you know what they say, if it seems too good to be true, it usually is. To this day I keep asking myself, how did I not see the signs? Looking back, they were right there in front of me. I guess I was blinded by love. I get chills and feel nauseous anytime I recall the night in my mind. It was Valentine's Day, the day of love, but for me it was a day of unending nightmares. So John came to pick me up for a romantic dinner at Maggiano's at 6 p.m. When I saw him, something about him just looked different, and I couldn't put my finger on it. He just didn't look like himself. When he was inside my apartment, Charlie did not approach him. He just growled at him and showed teeth. I was confused but thought maybe Charlie's just having a bad day. John seemed anxious and kept his distance from Charlie and wanted to hurry out to dinner. On the drive to dinner, he was quiet and barely looked at me, and he got lost on the way to the restaurant. Or so I thought he was lost. He kept driving through the city with no destination in sight. When I asked him where's he going, he would just say in an unfamiliar shaky voice, "You'll see, just relax." I thought, what the hell? Okay, this is not like John. He wouldn't just drive me somewhere and not tell me. He was not into surprises. Finally, he pulled up to an old, run-down apartment building at a dead-end dark street. He got out and opened my door. I hesitated to get out. I nervously asked him, "What is going on? Where are we?" He grabbed my arm and told me to just come on and to leave my phone in the car. The apartments were like a motel where the rooms were outside. You don't walk into a building to go to your apartment. The apartment was on the first floor, number 805, and he knocked heavily on the door 4 times. His hand still holding my arm with force. My heart was racing. I was scared, just not understanding what was happening. He was going to answer the door. I tried pulling away, but he said no with a stern voice. The door opened, and it was John? I was frozen in confusion. My heart was racing. I started to cry and asked, "What is going on?" The guy I thought who was John brought me inside the apartment and told me to sit. They both just stood there staring at me with a dominant stance. I was weeping in fear and asked them, "Who are you? What do you want?" The guy who picked me up this night said his name was Joe. He was John's other twin brother. Other twin? Joe? I asked Joe, "If you are Joe, then who are you?" I said, "John told me he was an only child," and so he said, "Well, my name is Jack." Joe and I aren't quite like John. He's the good twin who our parents always favored. So when John told us about you, we thought you were cute and wanted to get to know you better. Jack said this in a sinister tone. "So we're going to play a fun game tonight. It's called If You Win, You Live." I started begging for my life to just let me leave, and I won't tell the cops, I promised. Jack laughed and said, "No, sorry. We're going to play hide and seek. You hide and we seek. So on the count of 50, we will start looking for you." Joe opened the apartment door and wished me luck with an evil laugh and crooked smile. I ran and ran for my life. The building did not have residents, so I could not knock on anyone's door for help. I desperately tried looking for places to hide. With 2 crazy men looking for me, what are the odds I'll get away? As I was running, crying, panicking, I saw headlights coming down this dark, dead-end street. I was scared, thinking it was another crazy brother. But as I ran towards the lights, I recognized the car. It was my friend from work, Laura, and I saw someone in the passenger seat. Oh my God, it was Charlie. I asked Laura how the hell did she even know where I was and that I was in trouble. She reminded me that she can track my phone's whereabouts and that I always tell her to check on me since I live alone. I tried telling her what was happening, but there was no time. We had to get out of there. The overwhelming feeling of relief was too much for me to handle, and I almost passed out. She hurried me in her car to get out of there, and as we were getting in her car, Jack and Joe were yelling, running towards us, demanding we stop. Laura peeled out of there and drove to the police station, and we reported the incident. The next day, I went to the pet store and bought Charlie endless treats, and I also moved out of Florida a month later and never looked back. It is scary out there dating. Please be careful and make sure you get yourself a Charlie. Before cell phones existed many years ago, we used to carry around pagers tied to our hips. When you came to a phone, you would call the person back who had paged you with their phone number. As an on-call technician in the audiovisual industry, my pager would ring non-stop. Like most people who used pagers, our clients knew that if you followed up your phone number with a 911, that would tell the tech to stop what they're doing and call right away. Even though I was always busy, I hardly ever received these 911 calls. One afternoon, as I'm on Interstate 4 from Orlando to St. Petersburg, my pager rings with a number I don't recognize. Then, the 911. I take the first exit and stop outside of Plant City at what looks like a little truck stop to use the payphone. This process takes a maximum of 3 minutes. I entered the stop, asked for some change, and then proceeded to the wall's 4 payphones. I inserted my quarter and called the number that appears on my trusty pager. It keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. What the hell? I'm thinking to myself. Who would ignore their phone when I call them and page them? I started to hear a second ringing sound in addition to the one in my ear just then. When I removed the handset, another payphone on the wall, 2 phones away, is ringing, but it's an incoming call. The other phone stops ringing when I hang up the headset. I move a short distance over, pick up the phone, and examine the number printed above the buttons. I then compare it to the number on my pager, the number on my phone, the number on the pager again, and the number on the phone once again. With the exception of the 911, they're all similar. I briefly lose my breath before approaching the girl at the counter and ask whether she noticed someone using the payphone. She said that I was the only customer in the store for the previous hour. The entire experience probably lasted 15 minutes, but geez, I was scared. I was itching to leave, and the hair on the back of my neck was standing straight up. About 10 miles down the highway, I came across what appeared to be the scene of a bomb. State troopers and paramedics had just arrived when a tractor trailer carrying a load of steel had just broken free, and it caused a 4-car pileup. The moment it started, it was pretty much gone, so I pulled over to the side and offered my assistance as best I could. I don't know where or how or why I obtained that page, but I'm confident that if I had not, I would not be here writing this right now. The boss of one of my friends got an Audi A4 convertible. At the time, they were exciting and new cars. The big feature of this car was the pop-up roll hoops that were concealed unless you rolled the vehicle. He got to put those hoops to the test a few months after purchasing it, when he lost control and skidded down a steep bank that was about 10 meters or 35 feet deep. He survived with only cuts and scratches from the bushes he'd driven through because the roll hoops did their job. The car wound up on its right side, so the driver got out, made his way back up the bank to the side of the road, and then dialed 911 to report the collision. He was still standing there when a driver of another car that had witnessed the collision approached him to ask how he was. The second driver asked him if he was alright as he came up from behind. The boss of my friend turned around to respond and ended up dying on the spot. He had a cracked neck, but it was intact until he turned his head, at which point it cut his spinal cord.